Welcome back. We are glad you're still there. As promised, we had an engagement with the British High Commissioner to Kenya, Neil Wigan, to pick his thoughts regarding the popularity of the English Premier League in Kenya and Africa. How about the partnership or the deal between Kenya and the UK that has seen our nurses go to the UK in drafts? And he had interesting perspective. Take a look at what Neil Wigan had to say. And today we are at the residence of the British High Commissioner to Kenya, His Excellency Neil Wigan, who is courteous enough to host us right here in Muthaiga, Nairobi. Sir, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
11 months, so to speak, since you came to Nairobi. How's the tour of duty been so far, sir?
So it's been less than that. It's only been 6 months. And the big highlight of the start was the King's visit, the state visit to Kenya, which was a really historical and special event, a once-in-a-lifetime event in a way. It was a big success. He really loved his time here. But I was very busy with that for the first few months. So now I'm really trying to get out and see much more of Kenya and try to understand all its different sides and, what there is to see.
Kenya and the British people enjoy long, cordial relationship over the years since independence. Probably, how do you sum this relationship even as we mark the Commonwealth Day?
Extremely good. So wherever I've been in Kenya, I've been greeted very warmly. I was up on the border with Ethiopia last week. Up there, I was in Lamu last week as well. But down south in Taita Taveta, wherever I go, I've received a really warm, hospitable welcome. But as well as the historical ties, we think the future is really strong. So today we're trying to talk more about things like youth, with Kenya having such a young population, technology and innovation, where you're really a leader in Africa, but also areas like climate change, sustainability, which are shared challenges for all of us.
But I also believe education is one of the areas of partnerships and sports, talent development. From where you sit, probably, what are some of the areas probably the British government, the Kenyan government can work together to harness the talents of youngsters in Kenya?
So you talked about education, and there we see a lot of potential. And we're doing everything from working in sort of very early education, preparing people even before they go to primary school, but right the way through to higher education, and then beyond that. So there's very deep collaboration between British and Kenyan universities. There are research institutes based in Kenya which are really world-leading, where British scientists really want to come. So we think that whole area around education, there's a lot we can do. And again, the Commonwealth Scholarship Scheme is an important one, which I think maybe 1,000 Kenyans have been to over the history of the scheme. So we really value building those links of Kenyans who spend time studying in the UK and then come back to Kenya and bring their skills there. And just today I've met so many people who've talked really positively about the time they've had studying in the UK.
And talk of interest, Your Excellency, I might understand you're big in athletics, you love jogging. How about that? And probably Kenya is the world beater when it comes to athletics.
So I used to say I did running until I came to Kenya, and now I say I go jogging, because the standard in Kenya is higher really than anywhere else in the world. But I tried, but it's an amazing place to go running, and you just see Kenyan athletes and you really learn something about what good can be.
Probably, who is your favorite? Maybe a difficult question, but I'm sure you follow closely.
So as a diplomat, I'm never allowed to express preferences in any way, but I can say I've had the privilege of meeting some Kenyan athletes, including when the King was here, and it's a real honour to meet these people who've won multiple marathons, whose names are known around the world, and who've really changed the sport of athletics.
And again, still staying on the sports discipline, the English Premier League is quite big in Kenya, quite big in Africa. It's a phenomenon. Probably shed more light on that from where you sit. What kind of joy do you take as a British government in the growth of the EPL?
So it's amazing to see. So I was in Marsabit a week or so ago, and there you see people wearing Premier League shirts, and everybody says they're an Arsenal supporter or a Man City supporter. So there's just this huge enthusiasm. It's one of our biggest exports. But it's really nice to see again that sort of that new bits of the relationship are still really strong and popular and thriving here, and it means that young people in Kenya feel connected to the UK through sports, through the royal family, and through education. And it's really important we keep that going.
If I take you back years back in the 80s, it's football made in Germany that was popular in Kenya. But the EPL look came and outgrown that. Right now it is a phenomenon, as I said. Probably as the British government, if you could shed more light, probably what you've done, what you've gotten right to go to this, to get EPL as the most popular league across the world and mostly in the African continent.
So I think the government would be saying a lot to take credit for the EPL. It's been a success on its own. But one thing is that it's so international. So people from so many countries can say, this person from my country played for Arsenal, played for Newcastle, played for Liverpool. So I think that sense that it's not just an English league or a British league, it's really a global league, and where talent from all around the world competes at really the highest standard.
And there has been concern. I know the British people made a decision to leave the EU. Does this in any way hurt the chances of talented youngsters who would probably want to break even and ply their trade in the EPL? Is this a barrier, or how do you see it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, in Britain, we still really encourage talented Kenyans who want to study, to work, to the UK to come, and we're extremely open to that, and we're a great base for going elsewhere in Europe.
Years back, we have our very own McDonald Mariga, who was on the brink of signing for Manchester City, the reigning EPL champions. Unfortunately, due to Kenya's low FIFA rankings, he could get a work permit to play in the UK, unfortunately, and had to go to Italy. This probably is something that can be looked into. Today, if we had a youngster, probably talent abound, but because of rankings, low rankings, the FIFA, working against them, probably is this an area of concern?
So, like I say, we'd really like to see young Kenyans talented at everything, sports, business, academia, medicine, for them to have opportunities in the UK. And there's a very lively Kenyan diaspora. It's one of the biggest Kenyan diasporas anywhere. The king met them before he came out to Kenya, and he was really impressed by the talent that he saw in all different walks of life.
For somebody who follows the EPL closely, what stands out for me and for many a football fan in Kenya is good management, quite professionalized, systems work, there are structures in place. Probably what kind of lessons and advice would you probably give to the soccer administrators in Kenya? What leave can we borrow probably to propel Kenya's games to the next level?
So you know much more about football than I do, so I should be asking you that question rather than the other way around. But I think there's something about that openness to talent from all over the world. So you just take the best talent and then let it work out its own system. And the competition. So to be in the Premier League, you really have to be the best in the world, and that always encourages people to up their game. So being really focused on merit and talent.
The next edition of London Marathon, of course, Kenyans have done very well here. Records have been set, records have been shattered. Probably clarion call to the next edition. Do you expect more Kenyans there? Can a Britain probably challenge our very own Benson and the likes?
So I'd love to see, of course, as a Briton, I'd love to see a Britain do well. But like you say, Kenyans have a truly amazing success rate at the London Marathon, and it's one of the big four marathons in the world, and that just shows the level at which Kenyans have been competing.
Shifting gears, let's talk about climate change. Quite big. We've seen Nairobi host a huge conference here. We had a COP in Dubai. Probably what are some of the take homes, because you've been very passionate about this as a country, need to mitigate climate change, and states to work together just to ensure that the effects are mitigated and that we protect our environment.
So first, we thought that the Africa Climate Summit here in Nairobi in September was a huge success. I think by bringing all the voices of Africa together, it meant that at COP28, Africa spoke very clearly, and I think was listened to more than at any other COP. We think for the future that's vital, that Africa has its voice. The Nairobi Declaration made at the Climate Summit, people still talk about that and refer to that all the time. So we saw that as something really positive. And we also see We see Kenya affected by climate change, and so I was in Mandera and El Wak and saw the effect of El Nino flooding up there, and we've also seen the effects of droughts in other counties. But we've also seen a lot of the solutions coming out of Kenya. So here at the event today, we've got Kenyan companies who are producing some of the best technology in the world, who are really coming up with solutions which are practical here in Kenya, but could be practical throughout Africa and beyond that. So some really world-class technology and innovation coming out of Kenya and Africa at the moment.
And finally, Your Excellency, in the field of medicine, I think there's also a lot of cordial working relationship. We've seen a number of Kenyan nurses go to the UK on scholarships and even work. Probably from where you see it, how does Kenya stand to gain the long term in this kind of partnership? And is it something probably you would encourage more youngsters to explore?
Yes. Yes, so we think it's a win-win. So in Britain, we have a shortage in the health sector, particularly for nurses, and Kenyan nurses are educated to a very high standard, and those who are there, I think, really enjoy working in the National Health Service. It's good for them because we are offering these to people who are recently qualified but don't yet have jobs. So we're not taking people away from Kenyan hospitals, we're giving opportunities to people who are starting in their career. Obviously, while they're in Britain, they'll send remittances back to help support Kenya, but also we want them to come back to Kenya with the skills that they've gained in Kenya, in Britain, and to be able to apply those in Kenya. And we want to see a two-way flow. So we want to see British medical professionals coming to Kenya and seeing some of the things that you're doing here as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. That is the British High Commissioner to Kenya, His Excellency Neil Wigan, hosting us at his Muthaiga residence in Nairobi. And of course, this is Sporty Monday Quick Fire segment. My name is Isaac Swiller. See you again next week for another edition of Quick Fire.